You are listening to the best audio story of 2026. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and watch until the end so you don't miss the ending that will leave everyone stunned. A family dinner turned silent when the son-in-law's affair with his mother-in-law was exposed. The dinner table looked perfect. That was what Emily Parker would remember later. Not the shouting, not the tears, not even the printed messages scattered across the plates like evidence from a crime scene. She would remember how perfect everything looked before it broke. Her mother, Margaret Reed, had set the table with white linen napkins, gold-rimmed plates, crystal glasses, and a low arrangement of cream roses in the center. 2 candles burned on either side of the flowers. The dining room smelled of roast chicken, rosemary potatoes, and warm bread. On the wall behind Robert Reed's chair hung family photos. Emily's graduation, Margaret and Robert's anniversary, Emily and Daniel's wedding day, Christmas mornings, lake trips, birthdays, and Sunday dinners. In one photo, Daniel stood between Margaret and Robert, smiling like a man who had finally found a family he never had. Emily sat at the table and looked at that photo for longer than she should have. Daniel noticed. He shifted beside her. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. Emily turned to him. Her husband looked tired. Handsome, still. That somehow made it worse. He wore the navy sweater Margaret had given him last Christmas. His wedding ring caught a candlelight when he reached for his water glass. Across from them, Margaret moved in and out of the kitchen with practiced elegance. She had always been graceful when hosting. She could pour wine, check the oven, compliment a guest, and correct a crooked fork without seeming hurried. Robert sat at the head of the table, cheerful and unaware. "This smells incredible, Maggie," he said. Margaret smiled. "You say that every Sunday." "And I mean it every Sunday." Emily's throat tightened. Sunday dinner had always been sacred in their family. It was the place where birthdays were celebrated, arguments were softened, announcements were made, and grief was fed with casseroles and pie. When Emily was a child, this table had made her feel safe. After she married Daniel, it became the place where her husband was folded into the family. Now, in Emily's handbag beneath her chair, there was a cream-colored envelope. Inside were printed text messages, a hotel receipt, a photo, proof that Daniel, her husband, had been having an affair with Margaret, her mother. Emily had carried the envelope into the house like a hidden blade. She had not come to eat. She had come to end the lie. 3 days earlier, Emily had still believed her family was wounded but whole. Her marriage to Daniel had been strained for months. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud enough to explain the distance. Just tired conversations, missed connections, quiet disappointments. Emily worked long hours as an event coordinator for a non-profit. Daniel's real estate business had struggled after a failed investment. He had become tense, ashamed, and harder to reach. Emily knew she had not been perfect. She had been impatient, exhausted, more focused on holding life together than on holding her husband close. But she had believed their problems were ordinary marriage problems. Painful? Yes. Repairable, maybe. Then Daniel's phone lit up at midnight. Emily had been reaching over to silence it when she saw the message preview. MR Committee. I miss you more when Emily is sitting between us. Delete this before morning. At first, Emily thought she had misunderstood. MR Committee could have meant anything. Margaret volunteered for several charity committees. Daniel sometimes helped her with event logistics. It could have been a strange joke, a mistaken message, a harmless sentence missing context. Then another message appeared. MR Committee, tonight was dangerous. Robert almost noticed. Emily's blood went cold. Robert, her stepfather, Margaret's husband. Emily unlocked Daniel's phone with a passcode they both knew. Most of the conversation had been deleted, but enough remained. "Daniel, I thought about you the whole drive home." "Margaret, you are my daughter's husband. This should have stopped before the first touch." "Daniel, then why can't either of us stop?" Emily had sat in bed beside her sleeping husband with the phone in her hand, feeling her life split open in silence. She searched further. On an old tablet Daniel used for work and recipes, more messages were still synced in fragments. "Margaret, the hotel was a mistake." "Daniel, then why do I still want to go back?" Another message. "Margaret, never again during family dinner. I hated seeing her downstairs and knowing what we had done." Emily had run to the bathroom and thrown up. By morning, she had printed everything. Then she found a receipt. Daniel had left his jacket in the laundry room. In the inside pocket was a folded receipt from the Richmond Hotel. Room 214. 2 guests. Late checkout. The date matched the night Margaret had claimed she was helping Emily's cousin with a charity auction. Daniel had claimed he was meeting a client. Emily had also found a photo from the hotel's lobby bar on a public social media page. In the background, partially blurred but unmistakable, Daniel and Margaret walked together toward the elevators. Margaret's hand was on Daniel's arm. Daniel's head was lowered toward her. It was not proof by itself, but beside the messages, it became another nail. Emily had not confronted Daniel immediately. She had wanted to scream. She had wanted to wake him and throw the phone at his chest. Instead, she waited, because this betrayal did not belong only to her marriage. It belonged to the whole table. Robert deserved to know. Margaret deserved to hear the truth in the room where she had pretended to protect the family. And Daniel deserved to face the people who had welcomed him as a son. So when Margaret texted the next morning, asking if Emily and Daniel were coming to Sunday dinner, Emily replied, "Of course, we'll be there, now." Sitting at that same table, Emily watched the performance. Margaret poured wine. Daniel avoided looking at her. Robert carved the chicken. The candles burned. The family photos smiled from the walls. Margaret set a plate in front of Emily. "You've been quiet, sweetheart." Emily almost laughed. Sweetheart? Her mother still used the word as if it belonged to her. "I'm fine," Emily said. Daniel's hand tightened around his fork. Margaret glanced at him. It was quick, almost invisible, but Emily saw it. A private glance, a warning, a shared fear. The kind of glance two guilty people exchange when the truth is walking around the room but has not yet introduced itself. Robert raised his glass. "All right," he said warmly. "Before we eat, I want to say something." Emily closed her eyes. "Of course. A toast." Robert smiled at all of them, unaware that he was standing at the edge of his own heartbreak. "I know this year has been hard on everyone. Work, health, money, all of it. But I look around this table and I feel lucky. Families survive because we keep showing up. Because we trust each other. Because even when things get difficult, we know who we can count on." Margaret's face turned pale. Daniel looked down. Emily slowly opened her eyes. Robert lifted his glass. "To family." No one moved. His smile faded a little. "Everything okay?" Margaret forced a smile and lifted her glass. Daniel did the same. Emily did not. Robert noticed. Emily? Her heartbeat was steady now. That surprised her. Maybe pain, once it becomes large enough, turns calm. Margaret reached across the table. "Sweetheart, what's wrong?" Emily looked at her mother's hand. The hand that had held hers before her wedding. The hand that had brushed tears from her face after childhood nightmares. The hand that had touched her husband in messages that should never have existed. Emily slowly reached into her bag and pulled out the envelope. Daniel stopped breathing. Margaret's hand withdrew. Robert looked confused. Emily placed the envelope in the center of the table. "Yes, Mom," she said. "Something is wrong, and before we finish this dinner, everyone at this table is going to know what it is." The room went silent. The candles flickered. The roast chicken sat untouched. Daniel whispered, "Emily." She turned to him. "Not yet." His mouth closed. Emily opened the envelope. She removed the first page and placed it beside Margaret's plate. Then the second. Then the third. Then the hotel receipt. Then the photo. Robert leaned forward. "What is this?" Emily picked up one message and read aloud. "I miss you more when Emily is sitting between us." Daniel closed his eyes. Margaret covered her mouth. Robert's face changed slowly. Confusion first, then disbelief, then dread. Emily read another. "Never again during family dinner. I hated seeing her downstairs and knowing what we had done." Robert looked at Margaret. "Maggie?" Margaret began to cry. That was his answer before words came. Emily placed the hotel receipt in front of him. "Room 214, she said. "The Richmond Hotel. The night Mom said she was helping with the charity auction. The night Daniel said he had a client dinner." Robert picked up the receipt with shaking hands. Daniel stared at the table. Margaret whispered, "Emily, please." Emily looked at her. "Please what? Please keep pretending? Please protect you from the truth you didn't protect me from?" Margaret sobbed. Robert turned to Daniel. "Tell me, this isn't what I think it is." Daniel opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Robert's voice rose. "Tell me." Daniel's eyes filled. "I'm sorry." Robert pushed back from the table. The chair leg scraped across the floor. "No." Emily's chest ached at the sound of Robert's voice. He had married Margaret when Emily was 16. He had never tried to replace her father, but he had shown up for every school event, every birthday, every hard day. He had treated Daniel like family from the beginning. He looked at Daniel now like he was seeing a stranger sitting in his dining room. "I welcome you to this table," Robert said. "I treated you like a son." Daniel's voice broke. "I know." Robert turned toward Margaret. "And I shared a home with you while you were hiding him in your messages?" Margaret cried harder. "Robert. Don't. One word. Sharp. Final." Margaret froze. Emily looked at the two people who had broken her life from inside the family circle. Daniel, the man who had promised to protect her. Margaret, the woman who had taught her what protection meant. Her voice shook, but she did not look away. "This table was where you both pretended to love this family while secretly destroying it." Daniel covered his face. Margaret reached toward Emily. Emily leaned back. "No. Emily, I never meant—" "You meant to hide it," Emily said. "You meant to keep eating dinners with us. You meant to sit across from me after touching my husband and call me sweetheart." Margaret began sobbing openly. Daniel said, "It started because we were both lonely." Emily turned to him with such cold pain that he stopped. "Loneliness could have been a conversation," she said. "Betrayal was a choice." He lowered his head. She continued, "You didn't bring a stranger into our marriage. You brought my mother." The words entered the room and stayed there. Margaret whispered, "It wasn't love." Emily looked at her. That was almost worse. "Then what was worth this?" Emily asked. Margaret's face crumpled. "I felt invisible. Robert was recovering. Daniel was hurting. We talked, and I felt needed, wanted. I confused that with something meaningful." Robert laughed once. It was not humor. It was disbelief breaking into sound. "You were lonely?" he said. "After my surgery, when I was learning how to breathe normally again, you were lonely, so you took comfort from my stepdaughter's husband." Margaret covered her face. "I know how it sounds." "No," Robert said. "You don't, because if you did, you would never have said it." Emily looked at her mother. "You were supposed to be the woman I ran to when my marriage hurt me. Instead, you became the reason it hurt." Margaret sobbed. "I am still your mother." Emily felt something inside her go still. "Being my mother should have stopped you before desire ever became betrayal." Margaret bowed her head. There was nothing left for her to say. Robert picked up another printed message. His hands trembled. He read it quietly. "Daniel, I hate that Emily trusts us both. Margaret, so do we." Robert placed the paper down as if it burned. Emily had not planned to cry, but that one broke her. Not because of the affair, because they had known. They had named her trust. They had sat at this table, eaten her mother's food, accepted Robert's warmth, smiled through family photos, all while knowing the trust around them was being used as cover. Daniel finally looked at her. "I wanted to tell you." Emily wiped her tears. "But you didn't." "I was ashamed." "Not enough to stop." He flinched. "You waited until I had to find messages that should never have existed." Daniel nodded, crying silently. Robert stood. "I can't be here." Margaret rose too. "Robert." He stepped back. "Do not follow me." She froze. He looked at Emily, and his expression softened through the devastation. "I'm sorry, kiddo." Emily's face crumpled. "You didn't do this." "Neither did you." That sentence nearly broke her completely. Robert left the dining room. A few seconds later, the front door opened and closed. The dinner table remained set, candles burning, wine poured, food cooling. The silence afterward was not empty. It was the sound of the family, realizing it could never return to the lie it once called home. Daniel left that night. Emily told him to pack a bag, and for once, he did not argue. He moved through their bedroom quietly, while Emily stood in the hallway. The house they shared felt strange now, as if all the walls had heard the truth, and no longer trusted him either. When he came downstairs with a duffel bag, he stopped near the door. "Emily." She looked at him. "I know I don't deserve to ask, but can we talk tomorrow?" "No." His face fell. "Then when?" "When I decide whether hearing your voice is something I can survive." He nodded. Tears stood in his eyes. "I am sorry." Emily looked at him for a long moment. "I believe you." Hope flickered painfully across his face. Then she said, "That is why this hurts. If you were only a monster, this would be easier." He closed his eyes. Then he left. Margaret called 23 times that night. Emily watched the phone light up again and again. "Mom." The word looked like a wound. She turned the phone off. At midnight, Robert texted, "I'm at my brother's. Are you safe?" Emily cried when she read it. Not because the message was dramatic. Because it was simple. Because someone had thought about her safety without trying to manipulate it. She replied, "I'm safe. I'm sorry." Robert answered, "You don't apologize for other people's betrayal. Sleep if you can." Emily did not sleep, but she kept the message. The weeks after the dinner were both loud and quiet. Loud with logistics. Daniel needed clothes from the house. Emily packed them in boxes and left them on the porch. Lawyers were contacted. Bank accounts reviewed. Questions asked. Decisions made. Quiet with grief. The dining room stayed untouched for 3 days after the confrontation. Emily could not bring herself to clear the plates. The candles had burned down into twisted shapes. The wine had gone sour in the glasses. The food had hardened on the plates. Finally, Robert came over. He did not ask permission. He brought trash bags, dish soap, and a pie from the grocery store because, as he said, tragedy should not be faced without carbohydrates. Emily laughed for the first time in days, then cried. Together, they cleared the table. Robert washed dishes. Emily dried. Neither spoke for a while. Then Robert said, "I keep thinking about how many dinners we sat through." Emily nodded. "Me too. Do you think we were stupid?" She looked at him. "No." "Good," he said quietly. "I don't think so either. I think we trusted the people we were supposed to be able to trust." Emily's throat tightened. That became a sentence she carried. They trusted the people they were supposed to trust. The shame belonged elsewhere. Margaret's letters began arriving a week later. The first was 6 pages. Emily did not read past the opening. "My darling Emily, there are things about loneliness you may not understand." Emily tore it in half. The second letter was shorter. She threw it away unopened. The third came after a month. Emily almost threw it away too. But something made her open it. "Emily, I will not explain. I have explained too much because I was trying to make my choices sound less ugly than they were. I betrayed you. I betrayed Robert. I betrayed the role I had in your life. I became the woman I taught you to protect yourself from. Daniel's attention made me feel wanted at a time when I felt old, afraid, and invisible. That is true, but it is not an excuse. It is the weakness I should have faced honestly, instead of feeding secretly. You were my daughter, before you were anyone's wife. That should have stopped me. It did not, and that failure belongs to me. I am sorry, not because I lost you, because I hurt you." Emily read it twice, then folded it carefully and placed it in a drawer. It did not earn forgiveness, but it sounded like truth. That mattered. Daniel wrote too. His letter arrived through his attorney first, then personally by mail. Emily let it sit on the kitchen counter for 4 days. When she finally opened it, her hands did not shake as much as she expected. "Emily, I have no excuse. I have reasons, but none of them protect me from responsibility. I felt like a failure. Your mother made me feel admired when I felt small. I let that matter more than my vows, more than your trust, more than the family that welcomed me. I did not just betray you with another woman. I crossed into your family and turned the safest place you had into part of the wound. I am sorry for that in ways I do not know how to say, without making the apology sound too small. I will cooperate with the divorce. I will not make you fight me for peace." Emily sat with the letter for a long time. Then she placed it beside Margaret's. 2 apologies, both possibly sincere, neither capable of undoing the dinner table silence. Robert filed for separation from Margaret. At first, he tried counseling with her. Emily admired him for trying, though privately she knew he would not return. One afternoon, he came to Emily's house after a session and sat on the porch steps beside her. "She says she loves me," he said. Emily looked out at the yard. "Do you believe her?" "Yes." That surprised Emily. Robert smiled sadly. "That's a problem. I believe she loves me. I also believe she betrayed me. I have to live with both truth." Emily nodded slowly. "Can you?" "Not as her husband." They sat quietly. Then Robert added, "Love doesn't always mean access." Emily thought about that for days. Love doesn't always mean access. She still loved Margaret. That was the terrible truth. Her mother had betrayed her, but love did not vanish on command. It remained like a bruise under the skin. But loving Margaret did not mean answering her calls. It did not mean Sunday dinners. It did not mean pretending motherhood was restored because Margaret regretted breaking it. Emily learned that boundaries were not revenge. They were shelter. Therapy gave Emily language for what had happened. Betrayal trauma, family boundary violation, complicated grief. Her therapist, Dr. Lane, was a calm woman with silver glasses and a habit of letting silence do half the work. In their 3rd session, Emily said, "I feel stupid." "For trusting them?" Dr. Lane asked. Emily nodded. "My husband and my mother. How did I not see it?" "Because most people do not investigate the people who are supposed to be safe." Emily cried. "I keep replaying everything. The glances, the messages, the times they disappeared. That is your mind trying to regain control after betrayal. Did I miss it because I didn't want to know? Maybe part of you wanted to believe in your family. That is not a flaw. Emily looked down. Then why do I feel ashamed? Because betrayal often hands shame to the wrong person. Dr. Lane leaned forward slightly. The shame belongs to Daniel and Margaret. Emily repeated that sentence quietly. The shame belongs to Daniel and Margaret. At first, it sounded like something she was trying to memorize. Later, it became something she believed. Months passed. Emily filed for divorce. Daniel did not fight her. He divided assets fairly. He accepted responsibility in writing. He agreed not to contest the house. That did not make him noble. It simply meant he did not add cruelty to betrayal. Margaret stopped calling after Emily sent one message. I am not ready to speak to you. Please respect that. To her credit, Margaret did. That silence hurt too. Everything hurt, but the hurt began to change. At first, it was a fire, then a weight, then an ache. Then, sometime space, Emily started painting again, something she had not done since college. She moved the dining table out of the house and donated it. Not because tables were guilty, but because that one had held too much. She bought a smaller round table for the kitchen. The first time Robert came over for dinner after she replaced it, he laughed. Good, he said. No head of the table. Very democratic. Emily smiled. No speeches allowed. Tragic. I had prepared one on the emotional importance of mashed potatoes. She laughed. The sound surprised her. It sounded like someone still alive. Nearly a year after the dinner, Daniel asked to meet. Emily almost refused, then agreed because the divorce was final, and she wanted to see if his presence still controlled her nervous system. They met in a quiet coffee shop. Daniel looked thinner, older. Not destroyed, but changed. I'm in therapy, he said. Emily stirred her tea. Good. I ended all contact with Margaret. That should have happened before it began. I know. She looked at him. Do you? He nodded. I know enough to understand that knowing will never equal what you lived through. That answer was better than she expected, he continued. I confused being admired with being loved. Your mother made me feel seen when I felt like a failure. But the truth is, I liked how it made me feel. I chose that feeling over you. Emily felt tears rise, but she did not let them fall. Was it worth it? Daniel's face crumpled. No. Then why? Because selfish choices don't ask what they cost until after they've taken everything. Emily looked away. That sounded true. Too late, but true. Daniel whispered, Is there any chance someday? No. He nodded as if he had known, but needed the wound anyway. Emily spoke gently, because she no longer wanted to be cruel, even when she had the right. I may forgive you one day, but I cannot return to a marriage where you crossed into my own family. I understand. No, Emily said. You accept it. Understanding belongs to the person who was wounded. Daniel lowered his eyes. Before leaving, Emily said, My family opened the door for you, and you used that door to hide your betrayal. Daniel's eyes filled. I know. Emily stood. No. You are beginning to know. Then she walked away. She cried in the car, but not as hard as she once would have. That was progress. Margaret was harder. A mother is not a husband. Divorce can end a marriage on paper. There is no paper that ends being someone's daughter. Emily avoided Margaret for almost 2 years. Then, one spring afternoon, Robert called. Your mother asked about you. Emily closed her eyes. She always does. She isn't asking me to convince you. She just asked if you were healthy. Emily said nothing. Robert continued. You do not owe her a meeting. But if you ever choose one, choose it for yourself. Emily took a long breath. Do you hate her? Robert was quiet for a moment. No. That surprised her. I don't trust her, he said. I won't be married to her. But hate is too heavy to carry forever. Emily thought about that for a long time. A month later, she agreed to meet Margaret in a public garden. Margaret looked smaller than Emily remembered. Still polished, but without the certainty that had once made her seem unshakable. She stood when Emily approached. Thank you for coming. Emily sat on the bench, leaving space between them. Margaret did not try to hug her. Good. For a while, neither spoke. Then Emily said, Tell me the truth without making it prettier. Margaret's eyes filled. I was vain, she said. Emily had expected loneliness. Not that. Margaret continued. I was aging. Robert was ill. I felt like caretaker, hostess, mother, wife, everything except desired. Daniel admired me, needed me. I let that feed something selfish in me. Emily looked at the flowers near the path. Did you love him? Margaret shook her head. No, I loved how I felt when he wanted me, That is worse, I think. It is, Emily said. Margaret accepted the blow. I know. Did you think about me? Yes. Emily turned to her. And you kept going? Margaret cried silently. Yes. That answer hurt more than a lie might have. But it was truth. Emily's voice trembled. You were supposed to be the woman I ran to when my marriage hurt me. I know. You became the reason it hurt. Margaret covered her mouth. Emily stood. I may forgive you one day, but you will never again be my safest place. Margaret nodded, broken. I understand. You accept it, Emily said. Understanding may come later. Then she walked away. She did not feel healed, but she felt less trapped. Some conversations do not rebuild the house. They let you leave the ruins. Years later, Emily hosted her own Sunday dinner. Not many people. Robert came. A close friend named Natalie came with her husband. Emily's neighbor brought a salad. There were no crystal glasses, no formal candles, no speeches about family unity. Just food, warmth, honesty. The new round table was crowded but comfortable. Robert raised his glass of iced tea and said, To no speeches. Everyone laughed. Emily looked around the table. The family was smaller now, different. Some of it chosen, some of it salvaged. None of it perfect. But no one was pretending. After dinner, Robert helped her wash dishes. He glanced toward the dining area. You know, he said, this table is better. Emily smiled. Because it's round? Because no one sits at the head pretending they hold the family together. Emily laughed softly. Then, unexpectedly, she cried. Robert dried his hands and hugged her. I'm okay, she said. I know. And she was. Not untouched, not unchanged, but okay. That night, after everyone left, Emily found the old envelope in a storage box. The printed messages, the hotel receipt, the photo. For a long time, she had kept them close because she needed proof. Betrayal can make a person doubt their own reality. Evidence helps. But now, holding the envelope, she did not need to reread the words anymore. She knew what had happened. She knew whose shame it was. She took the envelope to the fireplace. One by one, she fed the pages into the flame. The message about missing Daniel when Emily sat between them cold black at the edges. The hotel receipt burned next. Then the photo. She watched until all of it became ash. Burning the proof did not erase the past, but it changed her relationship to it. The truth no longer needed to sit in a folder waiting to wound her again. It had done its work. Emily turned off the lights and stood for a moment in the quiet kitchen. A family table is meant to hold love, forgiveness, and shared memory. But when betrayal is hidden beneath the plates, the truth will eventually sit down with everyone. When a husband and a mother cross a forbidden line, the silence that follows is not emptiness. It is the sound of a family realizing it can never return to the lie it once called home. Emily had lived through that silence. She had survived it. And now, in a home with a smaller table and a truer peace, she understood something she could not have known on that terrible Sunday night. The family that breaks under truth was already breaking under lies. Truth only makes the sound loud enough for everyone to hear. Emily went upstairs, leaving the clean kitchen behind her. No candles burning, no untouched plates, no envelope hidden in her bag. Only quiet, only peace. Only the life she had rebuilt after the dinner that finally made everyone stop pretending.